Hello, everyone. I'm Jim Garrison, and I want to welcome you to day 326 of Humanity Rising. Over the past now almost 2 weeks, we've been commemorating 9/11 and an International Day of Peace on the 21st of September. We've traversed all kinds of issues having to do with human affairs and justice and equity, ecology, disarmament, peace. This week, beginning today, we want to journey for 5 days into the realm of the shaman. There is probably no category available to human beings right now on planet Earth, given the urgency that we face in relationship to the climate crisis and code red, than to take up the deeper meanings of what it means to be a shaman. There are many definitions of the shaman, but Marcia Eliade, who was a French anthropologist who did probably the seminal work on shamanism, defines the shaman as that person in society who speaks both the language of his or her culture, but also the language of nature. The shaman is bilingual in human tongue and in the realm of nature, and can have equal facility into both. And at a time when human beings are about ready to destroy civilization as we know it, possibly our entire species, because we haven't been listening to nature, we urgently need the voice of the shaman. So for the next 5 days, as I indicated, we're going to explore the shamanism of one particular people, the Q'ero people in Peru, who are descendants of the Incas, who when Pizarro and the conquistadors conquered that part of the world of Peru and surrounding areas back in the 1520s, just about 500 years ago, the Q'ero people escaped and went high up into the Andes. And even though they were part of the Spanish Empire, they kept the integrity and the purity of their shamanic practices until the present day. So for the next 5 days, we're going to immerse ourselves into the shamanism of the Q'ero people. And we're going to do this under the auspices of the Jaguar Path, an organization set up by Nina and Ray Crist, who have deep experience, Ray, for over 30 years in shamanism and in various forms of healing and spiritual practice. Nina, who has been a practitioner of both shamanism and the martial arts for well over 20 years, and together they founded the Jaguar Path. And they're going to moderate a series of 5 panels on shamanism on behalf of Humanity Rising. This is important as we give our attention to a major world event that is coming up beginning the 1st to the 12th of November. That's the Conference of Parties, the COP26, where the world governments and scientists come together to talk about what we're going to do about climate change, given the fact that we're now in code red. And we're on, as the Secretary General said last week, a catastrophic pathway. The shamans can help us. The shamans can point the way. So I'd like to now bring Ray Crist onto the panel with deep thanks Gratitude, Ray, for what you and Nina have brought to Humanity Rising for this week. And Ray and Don Francisco will provide our opening meditation. But Ray, I turn the program now over to you.
Jim, thank you so much. It's an honor to be here. Thank you for inviting us. Thank you for opening a window to the world, a window with a view of real humanity. Humanity at its best from ancient times and throughout times. As you mentioned, the Queros took off to the highlands and hid from the conquistadors. And what they really hid from was that big damage that happened, that big damage that the Dark Ages and Spanish Inquisition created throughout the whole of Europe, which was absolutely echoed a few centuries later as the Europeans moved to the United States and then down to Central America, etc. What we've lost was contact with nature, as you said. And that loss, that connection with nature is what drove us to drive so many species to extinction and our whole environment to danger of ending, our whole environment to coming into a place that is going to be inhospitable for us. I won't speak much because with us today is the revered Don Francisco, a elder of the Quero Nations people, along with our beloved friend Maria, who will be helping us in translating Quechua. And I'll invite them, in my turn, to invite them on. Maria, if you would like to join us, we would like to move into opening sacred space and to dive in and to see what really shamanism is. Hola, buenos días, good morning, Maria. Buenos días, Don Francisco.
Morning.
¿Cómo está? Alilencho.
Alilencho, harpichai sonkoi.
She say, where are you now?
I am in Costa Rica, you in Peru, and we have the whole world watching us. Maria, if you like, el todo mundo es escuchar hoy para ti. I would like to open sacred space, and we will dive in. I will say before we do this, just to give it context, because I know over 25 years ago, when people would ask me what is a shaman, I did not have a clue. And anything I would say was based on collective unconsciousness and just ideas that are moving around. Working with Don Francisco and the Queros for more than 15 years, I have not only helped myself heal from cancer, but we together have created a school for Western people. The importance of what a shaman is that, like Jim said, that they speak two languages, the language of nature and the language of humans. I invite you to open your heart today to see what touches you from what Don Francisco and I will share, and see how this shamanic approach to life can be more real than that is not shamanic. Por favor, Don Francisco, abrir dirección. Let's open directions and have a blessings for our morning. I invite you to bring one hand to the heart and begin by looking at the south, wherever you're sitting.
Mirando hacia el sur, dice. ¿Qué quieres decir primero? Ray, he wanna first give you all the presents that there are in the meeting, so welcome things. So is that okay?
Perfecto, sí, Don Francisco, por favor, sí.
Ya, monasca y guaypituna, panaituna. Buenos días. Alilancho, Imenale Kashanki. Ñoka Sotemi Francisco Chora Flores. Ero Nashomanta. Comunidad de Peros.
He say, brothers and sisters, good morning with everybody. He hope that every one of you are okay and try to enjoy this meeting with you. Okay, so he's very glad to be with you and share these beautiful experiences of his life.
Ñuqayku kawsayku haqay q'irulaqtapi Pacha Mamawan apukunawan tatara awruykumanta.
Nosotros vivimos con
So we are living now with the mountains, and we are one of the biggest communities called Keros. So we have one of the great integration with the nature and the relation with the relationship with the man, which is based with the knowledge and the experiences of generations of Andean men and women, that they are living in a mountain terrain and valleys of the regions of the Andes for centuries. So here in the highlands and the flatlands, so we are living surrounded by the mountains, that they are protectors and guardians.
Ñuqayku matrimonio gastan ceremonia, chakrapaq ceremonia, animalpaq ceremonia, viajipaq ceremonia, lipen ceremonia.
So for every activity that we have in the life of us, so it's usually for us, it's usually for the Keros community, gives to the Mother Earth the thanks for every day of our lives that we have. So it's the relation with the life, is relationship with everything, the life, our animals, our homes, our families. So our integration and relation with the nature is the same that we have with our own families. Is that okay? Can you hear me?
Beautiful, yes.
Ya hinalyaps kan ashkaraja. Hinalyaps kan chawayqi panaykuna que kunan ceremoniata qallarison kunan ki haywariku ta qallarisonchis. Ki tawanten suyuta ki charisonchis.
Así será, hermanos y hermanos.
Okay, so it's gonna to be sisters and brothers, this activity that we are gonna to start now. Thank you so much for this participation.
Atong amaru sa chamama, hampumuy, yana pawaiku, kalpachawaiku, chaskichawaiku, kalpachita kawaiku, ki ceremonia, kalariku naikupak, ki ceremonia, to sumata ki waiki, hawer mantay da koi kunaikupak, imas mantay yana pawaiku, kalpachawaiku sa chamama, hatun sa chamama, hatun machafay. Ahoy!
Harpachai.
Atong Puma, chokachinche, hampumuy, yana pawaiku, kalpachawaiku, kalpachita kawaiku, hatun kalpachita, sumah kalpachita, ki ceremonia, ki cherinaikupak, ki waiki kunawan, panaykunawan, yanata kankunap, ki Perú, Estados Unidos, sumata, ki Chaca, pasanampak, imas sumata, hatun puente, yana pawaiku ya, kalpachita, komaiko, hatun Puma, sumah Puma, chokachinche, ahoy! Sibar gente, hampumuy sibar gente, mensajero gente, tokuy yachenio, tokuy monaynio, kakun sibar gente, mensajero, aya kurang sumasta lipenta apamay, lipenta chayachi, que lachta ikumanta, que lachta kama, que wairamanta limana wasimanta, pasana kutun sumasta, kankuna kunang kalpata kumay hatun kalpata, sumah kalpata, alin umata, alin ñanta, alin caminuta espiritualmente, físicamente, ahoy, hampumuya. Hatun Condor, hatun apuchin, hampuma hatun apuchin. Suma Condor. Suma warpaykiwa hunimoiko, suma takiwa kikunata panaykunata. Kuirawaytuta kurah akuleh Condor. Kami tukuy yachenyo, tukuy monanyo, tukuy lankanyo kanki, suma takalpeki tukuay. Hatun kalpeki ta suma kalpeki ta ki ceremoniata, suma ta pasirenaykupa, ki ceremoniata suma ta juntanaykupa. Yacheta kuay suma yacheta. Ahoy!
Bring attention to Mother Earth under your feet.
Pachamama, suma Pachamama, Mereceno Pachamama, Uskulafta Pachamama, Pachakuti Pachamama, Yana Pawai, Kalpanjoy, Samin Joy, Portijoy, Mama Kucha, Kuchamama, Onomama, Sachamama, Sumafta Kunan Kalpata, Hatun Kalpata, Kami Sumafta, Kimi Gonata, Winachinki, Kami Sumaf Michuita, Depende que curado no che, ingat sekali kita misal itu sumata, che me argaris kiki ku Pacha Mama, hatun Pacha Mama. Yana pawai kal pachay chashchiwai ko. Koi.
Bring your attention up to the sun and the moon.
Intitaita, Mama Kila, chashkakona, hatun koto, lamanawe, Eben Pachicote, Hampomo, Yana pawai kal pachay chashchiwai ki pichicharei ko. Alin yachaita, sumak yachaita koaiko, anak pachakalpa, kalpaikita koaiko, hatun kalpaikita, sumak kalpaikita. Haya khawarimoaiko, ima sumakta, hatun kalpao, hatun espiritigan ko ikumoaiko ya sumakta. Ngayata kapaw sanggate apu salkantay, apu wasin tung apu chasta, manupinta wanakauri chilunjali mama simuna, hampumaya ko na hatun apu kuna, lipin apu kuna. Ahoy!
All right. Gracias, Don Francisco. Thank you all. As we open sacred space, we invited the power of the serpent from the south to assist us in shedding our skin, to teach us and assist us in shedding our skin and letting go of the past. We need to find new ways, more sustainable ways. We invited the way of the jaguar from the west. We need to change our minds, to have minds that are not guided by fear or greed. We invited also the north, hummingbird, to bring that sweetness back and that flight to find sweetness and the act of perseverance. And we also opening sacred space, we open the direction of the east, Condor, which helps us rise above and see the greater picture of things. Now more than ever, we have to rise above. We have to see what's happening to our planet. Of course, in closing, or rather opening sacred space, we thank Mother Earth under our feet, and above Father Sun and Grandmother Moon. Don Francisco, gracias por todo. I've been working with Don Francisco for 15 years, and what they share with us and what we'll share today, we'll begin with just one thing that is really important. Don Francisco will talk to us about yachai, the idea of having assuming responsibility, and yachai is, you could say, the mind or the way you think or our dharma in life. Don Francisco, por favor.
¿Ya?
¿Tú listo? Sí.
Ya, anak pacha yache intentaita solo. Primero, Señor Padre, Creador. Entonces, yache, toku yache ta como antes que auto mensaje yache, corja colegio yache, pampa mensaje yache, muso carpa yache, todos yache saberolia. Aquí saberolia, todos saberolia.
So he's explaining about of yachai, which is the knowledge that they have, and also the main purpose of this knowledge that they have in this community, which is the chaos. It's that everything which is in the sky, which is the constellation, like the sun mother, the constellations, the mama quilla, so the hatunilla, that they are on a constellation in the sky. The conceptualization of these elements also they must to be has in the earth. So also they speaks, and he say that in everything that they do in the life of those, so they try to has the modelation of the dualism. Have you heard about this term, which is the dualism? So it's the definition of the two parts. So if you have on a male, you have on a female. So you have on the right, you have on the left. So you have on a high, you have on a down. So in the basic fundaments of these big traditions that they have, they try to demonstrate that the constellation, that they are the biggest constellation, that they are sacred elements for them. So also they are going to be represented in the earth.
Ya che intitaita mama quilla chashakona hatun koto, hatun lamanyao, hatun chacana, todos conexión yache, anaspacha yache.
And here I want to say, if you mind, Maria, give me a second. Yeah, Francisco is saying that when we say one of the important things is that the dome, the inner dome of the skull, represents the dome of the night sky, represents the dome of the universe, including the sun, the moon, and all the constellations. Sí, Francisco.
So for that purpose, so the Andean tradition seeks to demonstrate through of the teachings and lives, ways of life, that each one of us is the designer and creator of our own lives. And for this reason, one should be followed our own path with these three values that they have, which is the service, the unconditional love, and also the wisdom. Okay,
Perfecto.
so you need something more, Ray?
Hablar un poquito más para Yachai, para what way we live in this. When we talk about Yachai, it's a gift, it's knowledge. How can we present talk a little bit more about this knowledge and how this can help us in different ways of thinking in relationship to our planet.
Explícanos un poco acerca del conocimiento de Yacha y la enseñanza a través del mundo, o sea, cómo ayuda este conocimiento a través del mundo hacia las personas.
Lipi montón tendaya entitaita mama kila hanakwacha taitan yachaita como lipi laftama lipi mondoman yachaita saberoriata chi saberoria escuela piscan lipi imaimana autoración piscan hinaleta espiritualmente pamba misajuna auto misajuna kurha kulihuna tuku yachainia fatun yachainia.
He say that the nature, so by engaging of those deeper human emotions towards to the nature, so one can then flow with the nature, with the power nature to confront the life's difficulties in harmony with the forces of the holy mountains or the sacred mountains.
So again, and I want to bring here, it's like add to this. I have been initiated by Don Francisco and the elders as a shaman, and I have been given I don't know if it's a title or a nickname, but they call me the bridge, in bridging these cultures, in bridging not only the Quechua and Spanish to English, but even more importantly, the deeper understanding, if you want, as a gift to us, is like how does this all apply to us, and how can we use today Don Francisco's deep wisdom? How can that speak to our heart and in the way we live? So here I want to add, and I'll give the microphone back to Don Francisco. I want to bring in context that what we're talking about is that once the conquistadors arrived, the lucky ones or the blessed ones were the Queros that took off and they went up to the mountains and they hid this knowledge. They protected this language. It's a language that has not been touched by the Industrial Revolution. It's a language, and these are ceremonies and ways and a way of thinking, because when we talk about language, we're talking about a way of understanding reality. How do I describe my own reality? How do I view the world? What's my actual perception of the world? So with the Dark Ages, not only did the conquistadors destroy Central America and South America, we have more than 90 million people massacred, that all this shamanic indigenous knowledge is disappeared from the early 1500s to the 1600s. But also at the same time, the same people, the Spanish Inquisition back home in Europe, persecutes the feminine, magic, and the animals. There's a thing coming out in the Middle Ages, in the Dark Ages, that says that humans are the favorite creation of God, and the rest are less. They're beasts that are used either for us to eat or work for us or for our entertainment. The second, and more, I should put first persecution, is against the feminine. And this is something that we still live in the echo of. The feminist revolution hasn't still, I feel like, really come full blast to bring us back to, because we don't need equality, we need even more than equality to understand that we need to have deep, deep respect for the feminine. From feminine Pacha Mama, who gave birth to all of us, and then from feminine, all the mothers that give birth to all of us. Our mothers, our wives, our sisters, our daughters. And thirdly, the other thing that was really persecuted and is well known that everyone was put to the fire was magic. So the Western human being was separated from magic, was separated from the magic that is present in every tree, in every blade of grass, in every stream, the magic that's present from birds flying, from animals walking around the planet, the magic that is everywhere within each and every one of us, or if you want, the divine that is present in everything. As we were separated from these three elements, the feminine, the animals, and the divine, we are left void to be in a place of trying to fill in a gap in our heart and in our logic that is unfillable. We try to fill in a gap that seems like the Europeans, colonialism, along with colonizing with their religion and their way of being. It's a gap that's not filled because they need to take over the Americas, Central America. They need to take over cultures. It's a gap that still till today is echoed. Still to today is echoed as colonialism and as wiping out any other culture than ours. So this is not a political statement. It is an anthropological insight, in fact, that this is what happened to our history. And this white, first we have human supremacy, and with this human supremacy, considering ourselves to be the most important or favorite creation of God, this gives us the right to destroy our planet, to drive to extinction all other animals, to disrespect the feminine, and of course to come to fear magic. We are innately all shamans, and we innately all hold a healing power. The gift that Don Francisco brings to us is that he brings to us intact these ways that have not been lost. They held them for us, for you, for every single person listening right now. It is a personal call from Mother Earth, as Don Francisco is the ambassador of Mother Earth, and he is the ambassador of that human being who is connected with reality, not with a TV, not with a car or technology or computer, but rather, along with all this, but also as a foundation, connected with the reality of nature, of the sun and the moon, of the waters and the rivers, the oceans, which all are represented in our body and which are really a part of who we truly are. Maria, please ask Don Francisco if he would like to share anything about the Condor or anything that he would like to share with us that he might feel is important for us to hear today.
¿Quieres compartir algo, por ejemplo, del cóndor, no?
Sí, Condor, Condor. También Condor, siempre, no,
Habla en quechua.
Sí, en quechua.
Siempre Condor. Después si gente tuku yachenio, siempre tuku sabiduría, siempre todo el mundo que lipin pakaya sa yache Juan lipinjis pa mana no kaya bakchu mana wafins kana pa lipinjis tuku yachenio kanjis.
So all the wisdom that they have in the upper world, so the conceptualization, it's the condor. The condor is one of the main elements that represent the upper world, and all the knowledge are concentrated in this animal, in this bird, which is the condor, and also the hummingbird. So.
Beautiful. And what we see with the condor, and the reason that I bring this up, and I've asked Don Francisco to talk about the condor now, is again, yatsai, the idea of mind, nous in ancient Greek, the thinking person, the thinking being, us, consciousness, awareness, is connected with the whole of the universe. Throughout the Incan astrology, and the world astrology, we see the connection that when we're born, the moment we're born, we're influenced by the stars, constellations, and the placement of the stars at that moment we're born. In the Q'ero tradition, in the Inca tradition, they refer to this as who connects us with this, with the constellations, is the Condor, who flies high above and connects with the gods and goddesses, with the stars, constellations, the sun and the moon. Again, this is a reminder to begin to think in a little broader way, because the Condor teaches us how to rise above and see the greater picture of our life. The biggest teaching here that the Q'eros share is that what has happened to us is that we have forgotten. We're way too close, way too inside. Our needs, our wants, especially that we'll need to fill in that space. Again, with the void, essentially, of the divine essence, the void of feeling that we're always connected with the divine. Everywhere we look, everything we breathe is the divine. And these are the teachings of the Condor. The Condor flies wing to wing with a great spirit and reminds us that that wind it's soaring on is that same air that we are breathing. And as we inhale this wind, this air, this life force, we're essentially, as Kabir, the great Sufi poet, says, we're essentially receiving God. Through my breath, I distill God within me, is what Kabir says. Through my breath, I extract God. The message is that we need to remember who we truly are. We are spiritual beings in a body. Through the next few days, we're going to talk about mind, body, and spirit. We're talking today about mind, yachai, in the sense of our understanding of what reality is, and thus also our response to reality. The imbalance we're seeing on an environmental level, before that is also seen as an imbalance in a cultural level. There's an imbalance economically throughout the world, an imbalance of the few having everything and the many having next to nothing. A system that's been created out of sheer greed and sheer lack of love, lack of connectedness. When we talk about this, I feel that it is important for us, for every single one of us that is here. I invite you personally to feel into your heart and to feel into how you can bring up this energy to begin to connect mind, nous, this thinking or understanding, to begin to look outside and begin to have an understanding which is innate within each and every one of us, to begin to feel that I am connected. I fly free with the Condor. I am too connected with spirit. And it is today a wonderful opportunity through this whole week to reconnect and see the greater picture of what's happening, to step out. I feel that many of us have gone through suffering the last year and a half. There's a lot of suffering happening, and my heart goes to each and every one of you that's experienced death or pain or loss in any shape or form. But maybe this first loss of freedom that we found, maybe it rings the bell, the alarm of that we're losing more than that. We're in the premise of losing our beautiful home, our planet. So we need to transcend, we need to rise above with Condor, let go of our personal losses, and actually use what we've lost, the freedom, the time to go out, the time to play with friends, commune with family, all that's gone for now, to really use it as a motive to say, now we're awakening, we're rising up to Condor, and we will begin to fly closer to Spirit and closer to Mother Earth. Don Francisco, por favor. Anything, ¿quieres hablar con Pacha Mama o por ceremonia?
Ya. También conexión de Puma. Hatton Puma conexión, Hatton Puma Pachamama conexión, árboles conexión, todos conexión Tokuyache Neo.
So
Marie,
it
don't
begins to say that also the great connector is Hatun Puma, the great Puma, the great mountain lion and jaguar, who awakens within us the heart to begin to be more active and not passive. Awakens the fact that you are as powerful as a jaguar, as a puma, and you're connected always through Condor, you're connected always with your jaguar. So we begin to move from a place of abundance, not lack, of a place where we're not trying to fill in a gap that we have, but we're stepping out to offer healing and help to everyone around us. Otro, por favor, Francisco.
Tuku yacenio apa usangate apu salkantai tuku yacenio. Hatong yacenio apu usangate apu salkantai apu wairurone apu pokone machu pokone waino pokone orpone tuku yacenio todos apus.
All the mountains, all the sacred and holy mountains that we have in Cusco are connecting with this knowledge and wisdom that they have.
This is beautiful and beyond beautiful. I want to say, and I will explain more of what Francisco and Maria just said now about the connection with the mountains, is that the way the Incas, the way the Queros view the world is, again, first of all, by looking outside, where am I as a human being? As a being, we come here and we look around. So first of all, we are a part of something greater. And again, that's what we missed in the Western world. We thought that this is just a platform that is given to us and we can use and abuse. It is the opposite. We're here as a small part of something greater amongst other beings. And these other beings are the animals, these other beings are the plant world, the stone world, the water world. When he talks about the mountains, the Incas, and again the Queros, see that above is what we call Viracocha. Viracocha is the night sky, is this beautiful globe above us that has all the stars, constellations that are affecting us, that are sending us their energy. Right under what we have is Inti Tai Ta, biggest star, the sun. Inti is the sun that provides his love, his affection, his warmth to Pacha Mama, to Mother Earth, and thus she is encouraged to give birth to all of life. So that conversation between Inti Tai and Pacha Mama, between the sun and the moon, that conversation, that relationship itself is a relationship of love, and thus a love, affection, and sweetness, gives birth to everything, encourages birth, encourages life, that we live. And then right under the sun, the trilogy here, the next layer is the Apus. And here, like Maria said, is the distinction. There's the big mountains that are called montañas in Spanish. But when we look at some specific mountains, and we're talking about the 16, 18, 20,000 footers of the Andes and around the world, the Queros describe them and call them the Apus, the holy mountains, the snow-capped mountains. They are our gods. They are who brings life. The stars send their energy, the sun sends their energy, and the white-capped mountains, like Don Francisco's hat, receives it, and that white purity of life melts from the glaciers and brings the water to the sacred valley for water to bring life to all of the plants, the animals, and the people. Otro, Francisco.
Yacheni mamakucha, hato mamakucha, hato mayo. Lipin yacheni kunista kuliambun lipi yacheni ya no kanjis pakana manya kunanjis. Lipin yacheni ta unumanta kuchamanta, lipin puris animal kunamanta, sacha kunamanta yacheni ta hato yacheni ta lipin ta no kanjis ma. Lipin mondo bipisi yachegan.
The lakes and the rivers are considered nature and sacred elements in this Andean knowledge that they have.
And Pacha, the big sea, the big lake as it's referred to, is what blesses us and washes us. And the big sea, which is the big mother, is the mother of all water bodies in the whole world. The rivers, the lakes, they're part of the big sea. And always clean us and clear our way of thinking and clean our bodies and allow us to live in a more pure way. See.
Ya waikichay, China ya waikichay na jek kahya chi ya chiwanka, mai man bis mai oficina pipis Mai pori pipis ya change so jit ya chay ta kwans cheka chiam pori ringes lukamams palimambas.
Asimismo, como es con la salud que siempre caminamos hacia el lado izquierdo derecho, caminamos a todo el mundo.
Okay, part of this concept that they have, which is the keros, so everything which is in the earth, like the plants, the trees, animals, the mountains, the rivers, everything which is in the earth is considered for them like a sacred elements, and also is representing in the life of those in the earth and also in the sky.
And this is where this is where we come into the beauty of it, the heart of it is it's like we understand that the Keros explain to us that every animal and every plant and every tree and every river is represented by that in the sky, meaning is represented by the divine, is the divine itself. And when we begin to walk, and when we say it was like, I remember when we lived in the United States and we taught, and my wife Nina and I taught out of Kripalu Center for Yoga and Health, we would also guide hikes and we'd go hiking. And it's just like, here's just an extra element because this is big for the Keros besides they're walking up and down 18,000 feet. Is the understanding is where are we walking? Am I just walking? Am I just hiking? Or am I really in this dome of this beautiful temple? How am I walking here? Am I walking in this place recognizing the divine energy within every animal and every tree and every creek? How do we begin to walk with reverence? How do we begin to understand that gap that we feel, that gap we see, and even if we just look at it and we don't take it personally, being of the tribe of Europe and America, how can we begin to see that we can't fill in the gap by taking from the environment, by taking all these resources from Mother Earth, by opening and just taking resources constantly, by taking wood, by cutting down forests and jungles, by blocking waterways and shifting our environment to a place that, as Jim mentioned, and as we're looking at this whole motive of humanity rising, is to understand we are in code red. And we're here today not with a message of fear, but rather a message of awakening to our divine nature and to the divine nature of everything that surrounds us. And how could we, even in these 5 days that we're together, how each and every one of you can take bits and pieces to awaken the shaman within you. The shaman being that person that is in holy communion, the shaman that understands that everything is magic, everything is divine always. So notice how Francisco brings it back to his head, to get it into our heads that this is holy communion, get into the way we view the world. And talking about translating from Quechua to Spanish, from Quechua and Spanish to English, is like, how do we translate this, oh, this is a beautiful jungle, or these are woods, or this is a creek, to understand that what we're really looking at, this is a beautiful God, a goddess. This is beautiful divine energy, and everything is a gift. Not only do we not lack, but we live in abundance. Don Francisco once, after I asked 100 questions one evening, as we were looking down the Sacred Valley, at my 100th question, he just kind of had enough, I think. He said, hermanito, my little brother, everything is here. Look, everything is here. Todo es bien. So, por favor, Francisco, si quieres hablar un poco más con otra cosa, animal y yachay.
Los Incas, Inca kunah ñawpa runa kunah ñawpa papukunah yachenin, hatun inkari, hatun kuyarij yachenin, chaykunatapas ñuqanchis mañakunanchis lipi yacheninta ashun hatun yacheninchis kananpaq.
So he said that the Incas were one of the biggest societies, that they were very connecting with the nature. They were for them considered like sacred elements. Everything that they were doing in their lives, it was living in a social setting where the integration and relation with the nature it was considered like a great spirits that they were always present to assist to the humanity.
Ray, could you ask Marie to move into the frame so we could see her face and speak a little louder? People are having trouble hearing her.
Oh, thank you for telling us. There you go. Está bien, perfect.
Thank you.
So you would like to repeat one more time, Maria?
Yeah, could you repeat? Thank you.
Yes, so Francisco said that the Incas were one of the biggest societies, that they were, the main emotions that they were having, it was to respecting the true shape form of the nature and also its laws. They were doing, living in a social setting where the integration and relation with the nature, it was the same, that they were considered like a great spirits, that they were always present to assist to the humanity. And also for this Andean tradition, it was one of the most important teachings and show the light waves that each one of us has, is the main designer and also the creator of our own realities.
Beautiful. And let me go a little bit deeper into this. The essence is, first of all, I'm going to say, when we talk about the Incas, we talk about a great civilization, and we're also talking about essentially a culture that has been described in the language of Quechua. Something that I found out that I did not know 16, 17 years ago, before I started working with Don Francisco and the shamans in the Andes, is that Quechua language was spoken all the way from Mexico, all the way to the Caribbean islands, all the way down to Argentina and Patagonia. We are talking about the largest genocide that humanity, that the planet has seen. More than 90 million Incas were brought to extinction. Along with them, that language, like Maria was just saying and translating, is that the point of view of the world, these humans had, that we are invited to return back to our nature, so we don't suffer from this loneliness anymore that has come upon us, this difficulty, this communication, this communion with the holy. That these people understood that we're all expressions of the divine energy, of the divine force. And hence again, we're talking about a language that's based on respect, admiration, and reverence. As each human being that speaks to you, your wife, your husband, for every one of us that's here today, this morning, it's like your brothers, your sisters, your students, your teachers. Every person is divine. Is the representation of the divine force, of God, the goddess. And imagine that we can build a world that we begin to become aware of that once again as the actual reality, because this is the reality. If you're alive and you can see and hear and feel and smell and you can run all these emotions, this is exactly this consciousness awareness around you. That consciousness itself is the divine itself. So what Francisco just shared with us is that the Incas live with a consciousness and a way of being and thinking, a frame of mind and language that sees and realizes as everything as divine. I'm going to ask a little. We're going to talk a little bit about farming and see how much Francisco wants to share with us. But an understanding of how the Incas approach farming will give us a big insight, a deep insight in a stark and really dark contrast of how we brought in, especially after the war and especially after the Vietnam War, how do we bring in chemicals to put in on the farms? How Monsanto has been killing the planet with poison? And let's just take a little bit of you and I'll share more also. It's like, how did the Incas more than 500 years ago and 1,000 years ago viewed farming and sustainability, because the Incas were talking about sustainability. They were drawing our attention over 1,000 years ago. Hey, don't just farm for this year. You're farming for decades, or for generations to come. Protect the earth. So Maria, please, or I could ask, Don Francisco, por favor, tu hablar un poquito por Pacha Mama, por Moray, y por maíz, and ask Maria about how they cultivated the earth and the relationship with the earth.
¿Cuál es la relación que tienes con la tierra? Por ejemplo, háblanos un poco de Moray.
Kita Pachamama, Juanza Pachamama, Morey Nusta, Yachininta, Juanz Hato Yachininta, Sumak Yachininta, Lipiteximonting, Wawangunaman, Warmiman, Hariman, Lipima, Yacheta Juanz, Inaliata Machu Picchu, Waina Picchu, Lipi Yachininta, Juanz, Sinata, Tipung, Rache, Lipia Yachininta, Nauparunacuna, Antivarunacuna, Suyurunacuna Juanches.
So he says that every archaeological place that we have in Cusco, like Moray, Machu Picchu, and other archaeological sites that we have, so Ollantaytambo, are really connecting also with the nature and also with the lives of the Incas. So the Incas, they were having the concept that building every place that they were having, it was sacred, and also it was connecting with the real situation and with the real geographic position of this earth. So actually, according to some researchers, they say that every archaeological place that they were building in the top, it was connecting with the skies. So one of the principal purpose that they were having to building this kind of the areas in the high parts of the Mother Earth, it was connecting with the sky. It was the principal purpose that they were having to build it on the top.
Beautiful. Again, the celestial connection with the divine, and also just talking about one of the sites, one of the many sites. Moray is this beautiful, beautiful place in the Sacred Valley, where the Incas, they found this place where there's 3 mountains connected, and there's a big divot in the center of these 3 mountains. So they carved out this circular or oval, I should say, terraces that go all the way down into the mountains and come all the way up at the top. Now, in each one of these terraces, what they did essentially here is what we have is this ingenious engineering of seeds. Engineering not by taking and destroying or filling with poison or changing, but rather allowing and asking Mother Earth in the relationship with the sky, as Maria was just saying, how the blessings can come and they can bless the seeds of this. So in each one of these terraces, what you find, and when we go there every year in our trainings, or when we used to go there for the last 15 years, and we will hopefully start soon again to return to these beautiful places, what we find in each one of these terraces is a different microclimate. So the crop that is raised in each one of these yields a different seed that is predisposed now naturally to take in a different altitude. So then they would take the seeds from Moray, and they would take the seeds from the lower terraces to sell to the lower ground and to sea level, all the way to the top terraces, which they would take and bring to plant these seeds in the higher Andes, in the Sacred Valley, and even higher. And then you'll see that seed thriving because it was already informed by the Earth Mother, Pacha Mama, and Father Sky. And you'll see in the center of this oval, and maybe we'll bring in some slides. I think an idea of seeing some pictures in the next couple of days is that you'll see that they have this lightning design, this zigzag path, that trail that walks all the way down to the center of Moray at the bottom, which is called the Cusco, which is called also the navel. So Moray is the navel of the earth. If you look at it from high above, there's this belly button opening. And the lightning would hit, you will see the zigzag line of the lightning, also representing the zigzag light of sperm, which is essentially germinating, which is essentially giving what the earth needs, and essentially through lightning is nitrogen that really enriches the earth and really grows strong seeds. Maria and Don Francisco. Otro para, ¿tú quieres hablar para animales o otro para Pachamama?
Ya animals mantaps animal kunapis ya cheta ka kuliawan sibunga living animal kunapis llama papucha living animal kunaya ke na Pachamama ya chenio hatun ya chenio ki machahwai hatun Pachamama paikunapis ya cheninda kuan chiwan chi ya chewan no kanjis inka kunapis por el campo.
Okay, so go ahead, Maria, and I'll take it over too.
He's talking about of the snake, like animals like the llama, the alpaca, that they were domesticated animals that reached to South America.
Okay.
So they are not endemic from South America. They are coming by North America and cross by the Panama Isthmus to South America, and they were domesticated in the Incas time. But many Andean towns like the Queros and so many communities in the high parts of Cusco, so they have these kind of animals because they have so many benefits, like the sacred benefits, the wool, the meat. So they have different benefits that they can get from the llamas and alpacas. But they probably also, the llamas and alpacas are used in some ceremonies too, the baby alpacas or the baby llamas, that is most usual in some ceremonies to the Mother Earth.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And I see I have a question here that's coming in about explaining a little bit more about the symbolism of the 4 power animals of the 4 directions. I'm going to start by saying, just following up with what Maria said, is just like there's deep respect towards the animals. So this is exactly the opposite of what I was referring to earlier about how in Europe they are named the beasts and they want to be separated from humans. Where what we have here is what we call Aini. Aini is one of the most beautiful, one of the many beautiful words of Quechua. And Aini means in correct relationship to. Aini means reciprocity, paying it forward, thanking someone in integrity with. So what we have is Aini with animals. There's integrity and gratitude towards the animals. So they realize that these animals, and they go through this whole process as they go through a natural way of cultivating / engineering the seeds. They do the same thing with the animals. They bring them and say, could you please be a part of our mountains and our valleys? And we deeply respect you because you bring us the wool that we can wear to be warm, the wool that we can use for our weavings, for our ceremonies, for our beautiful hats. You bring us the meat, the milk. You bring us the bones to make tools. And there is an Aini, there's a correct relationship to that. And furthermore, they understand that, well, if we're trying to figure out what this planet is, what this reality is, there are others that can tell us. So Francisco started with Pacha Mama. Pacha Mama, the great serpent, comes from the south. The great serpent, the south direction, is that power. And I will talk a little bit more to it as we move along for the next few days to understand why sacred space is important and how it's related to us. And we'll talk about this tomorrow in a deep dive of understanding why this is so real and how, when we understand these things, we, each and every one of us, becomes more real, right? Because we've drifted away from that reality. So coming back, the serpent teaches us how to shed our skin and let go of the past. It tells us that if you have a trauma, if you have something that's hurt you, if you have something that's holding you back, you are allowed to, and you have the capacity, with help, to shed that, to let it go. To take that trauma and let it go. And what Pacha Mama tells us is that as it sheds its skin, it gives it back to Mother Earth. And that shedding of the skin is called letting go of hucha, letting go of heavy energy. That's what's holding you back. We don't talk about good or bad. That's a Western idea. That's a black and white world. We don't live in a black and white world. We live in a world of many colors and many shades. So Serpent teaches us how that we can heal and that we can actually become anew, that new skin that we could get. After a training, after a week of listening to these shamans, after praying, meditating, or whatever it is, getting to the practices, we can actually change who we are. And not only do we have a new skin to feel, it's, oh, I feel good. A new skin meaning a new way of living and viewing the world. But actually everyone else around us can look at us and say, hey, you look new. What did you do? You've changed something. And Pacha Mama gives us the biggest gift of telling us that we're connected to Mother Earth. And this is to speak to this disconnection that we've had from the earth, from being our mother and are fully connected with us. We have made her a platform where we drill and take from. We can return, and Pacha Mama says, we are the same, belly to belly. We feel belly to belly, Mother Earth. And that can address a big insecurity. Have you ever felt insecure? Raise your hand. I can't see you, but say, I've felt insecurity. That insecurity is rooted in the fact that we have been really, literally uprooted from that connection to Mother Earth. Right? The big companies, the big farms have taken over. The big pharmaceuticals have taken over. Where I used to go with my grandmother and collect chamomile, where we're taught in the jungle in Peru and in the Andes what herbs to collect to heal ourselves. I'll go a little bit in a faster pace. To the west, we have the Jaguar. The Jaguar teaches us no fear. No fear in this world or the next. The Jaguar is the great shaman. The Jaguar is connected to death, and it's one part more of what the shaman really is. The shaman is, as Jim really well explained to us, is that person that's connected with the spirit world and this world, and has equal connection and communication to both. Maybe that's a little bit baffling at first to hear. It's only baffling, or it sounds unreal, because the last 500 years, anyone that would talk about it would be put to the fire. So if someone asks us, are you at all involved with magic? The first thing we want to say is, no, I have no idea and I'm not connected with magic. And in that place I put fear of being persecuted. So the shaman returns, the Jaguar returns and says, you are all powerful, you are on the top, you have nothing to be afraid of. Coming into Yachai, the mind, the way of thinking. The Jaguar is the mind, and a mind that is not fueled by fear, but rather is on the top of the food chain and moves in life with determination, with softness and sensitivity that it holds in its paws, with determination and power that it has in its claws. And this can be applicable to everything that's happening, either a conversation at your home, in a business deal, in the moment you're at the bank, in the moment, all this. How can I take on these qualities of these animals so I can behave in Aini, so I can behave in correct relationship? So when I'm creating an agreement, I'm not coming from being afraid. I'm tapping into Jaguar and I'm coming being honest. I have sensitivity in the needs of the other person that's with me in this agreement, and I have also the ability to deliver and honor my agreement. Going up to Hummingbird, Hummingbird teaches us, Hummingbird is beautiful. Hummingbird has helped me so much in my life. Of course, Jaguar, as we've created, the Jaguar Path is my power animal and is really what I share and I think needs to be shared with the world. That's Yachai, a way of thinking. Hummingbird brings us the sweetness, teaches us first of all that we can fly backwards. It's the only bird that can fly back. And it teaches us through this way that we could go back and heal the past. And that and only that can let us move forward, dart left and right, to collect once again the nectar of life, to bring the sweetness into our solar plexus that we've lost. There's another story about Hummingbird that Francisco shared with me 15 years ago and that changed my life. He said that hummingbirds migrate. They go from the Americas, from Florida all the way to Mexico, to Yucatan. That's over 2,500 miles of a trip of a bird that's almost as small as a bumblebee. But it has the ability and it gives us the gift of perseverance. We're all small when we're alone. But we all have that ability to know that whatever it is we're going through, we can make it and we can arrive on the other side where nectar awaits us once again. And along with it comes this Myth, or maybe reality. We'll go to documentaries of David Attenborough to find out. But there's a myth or a story that says that when the hummingbirds are flying across the Gulf of Mexico, sometimes they meet with geese that are doing the same migration. And the hummingbird will go on the top of the back of a geese, cuddle into the feather downing, and just catch a ride all the way. And besides that is fascinating to watch into the animal world, the collaboration and how these things can happen, or fascinating and symbolic as a metaphor. For me, when I was diagnosed with cancer and was given 3 months of life in 2003, when I heard that story, it brought me back. It awakened the hummingbird inside of me. And I said, you know what? I'm going to heal the past. And not only that, I'm going to catch on to that perseverance. And I'm going to catch on that ride. And my goose that I rode through this time of healing cancer, which was several years of coming clean to really get a what do you call it? A bill of clear health. My goose was my yoga mat. I laid out my yoga mat and I got on top of it and I practiced daily. When the times would come that I wanted to cry, that I was losing my life, that I was losing my 2-year-old son, that I was in despair that I couldn't still live, I would go back to my yoga mat, back to my yoga mat. That gave me an understanding that there are things in life that we could use that will help us, encourage us, hold our hand, bring us to the other side. And finally, just for today, just for these 4 animals, to answer the question that I saw in the Dropbox, in the chat box, the Condor brings us high above, and that's what we're talking about today, right? Condor allows us and teaches us how to fly high above and see the greater picture of our life. So what does it teach us? Discernment. What is it when we're in a situation and we're totally immersed emotionally or entangled emotionally in it? What happens when we respond from that place? How did it go when you responded when you were angry, or when you were sad, or you're disappointed, or you're let down? Condor says, no, wherever you're at, before you do anything, rise, spiral upward, and look at the situation from very high above, through discernment, clarity, through yatsai, through the dome of reality. Be connected with the divine. And when you see the greater picture, you can see who's next to you, what's happening in the situation, where may you be at fault, where was the other person at fault, where, take away all fault, where is there lack of alignment? How can you bring yourself to Aini and that other person, or the circumstance, the situation you're dealing with? Condor again gives us the amazing gift of detachment, of discernment, so we can begin to act in a way of reverence to everything, so we can make the shifts and changes in our life that we feel are necessary. Those just a little bit, and again, Condor connects us with the divine. This is something that I really invite you to inhale. I invite you to inhale. One of the biggest important things that I've learned from Francisco and the elders that you will be meeting, Juanita, his wife, and the other shamans that you'll meet this week with me, is that when you want to learn something, open your heart, your eyes, your ears, and inhale what you're hearing. Inhale it. This is the most important thing to realize, that when we look at a condor flying at 16, 18, 20,000 feet, they're amazing, amazing pilots. They are gliding on this force that is the same force we are gliding in our whole entire life. And that's the wind, the air that we breathe. The air that we breathe is not just simply a list of chemicals, oxygen, nitrogen, etc., but rather it is the spirit itself that when we inhale it, infuses us with consciousness, awareness, and surrounding. And it is the same air that you and I and every one of us, all 20,000, 30,000 of us, whoever is on today, is the same air that we all breathe on the planet, that it connects us, that makes us one, and that makes us one with the divine. I'm going to open it to see if there are any other questions. I'm going to look here and see. Wonderful. And I'm going to open this also for either Jim or Richard to to bring it home, also we'll be sharing much more through the university, this master's program that we're beginning this November. Jim, are there any questions that you'd like or to ask, or anything you'd like to share more?
Well, first, Ray and Don Francisco and Maria, thank you so much for everything that you've shared with us today. It's a very powerful message that you're bringing about alignment with Pacha Mama. You know, the one question, Don Francisco, that I was emerging in my mind as you were telling your story, you know, the Karo people have survived now 500 years of genocide, colonialism, exploitation. In your mind, what has been the key for the survival of the Karo people? What has led you for 500 years and enabled you to keep intact your traditions?
Maria, you're muted. Yeah.
Okay, just one second. Ellos dicen el secreto para haberse mantenido tanto tiempo fuera del contacto y mantener vuestras tradiciones y costumbres fuera del contacto de la sociedad como nosotros, por ejemplo.
It's a beautiful question, Jim, and
So Francisco said that the principal reason of why they were not, why they were without contact with the normal humans that we are like us. So probably it was one of the purpose or one of the system why they were not having any contact with the humans. It was the areas where they were living. The areas where they were living, probably it's 200 kilometers from Cusco or other communities or other towns that they are closer of those. But the main purpose, one, it was the geographic position that they were living. So the other purpose why they were keeping the main traditions and customs that they were having is because they were having a close surround just only between of those. I mean, the families, the children, the women, the men, the animals, everything that they were having in their town, it was only connecting with them. They were not having this connection or with these experiences of life with other people that they were living outside of those. So
yeah, and that's beautiful.
So it was, it's okay, Ryan. It's okay.
Yeah, thank you, Maria. So the essence is that the Inca, when they saw the conquistadors coming, the shamans are those who also can read the future. So when they saw these men in these armor and the pale, they realized the disconnection that they had. These people were in armors, which means that they were not connected to the earth. You see the Inca warriors, they're wearing nothing. They're wearing leather. Their bodies are naked. They're connected to earth. They're an extension to earth. But when you looked at these conquistadors, they had these metal shields. They were like aliens. They were like astronauts from somewhere that come now. But these, unlike the good aliens here, these are coming. And it's really clear to them that they've come to take away, that they will take away, that is clear to them that they will take away the tradition and the relationship. So they're hiding up in the mountains, not to save their life. They are appointed to be the carriers of the light, earth keepers. Their life is always second to their job. What Francisco does, what the other shamans you'll meet do, is that they are the spokesmen of the earth. They need to speak about Mother Earth to everyone, to educate people. So they hide and they make sure they're with no connection for that 500 years. Francisco came in his 20s to see that there is something that's happened in this last 500 years is like electricity, cars, running water, houses. They live till today. Unfortunately, when I say this, it's of course a give and take. A road has arrived now, only about a year and a half ago, a road has arrived up at the Karo Nations villages. Till 2 years ago, there is nothing. It was only an 18-hour hike, a treacherous hike. So of course, no one could ever find them. It was unable it was difficult. No, it was impossible to find the Karos. So they held the traditions, this information that they are now coming down. And so why are they coming now? Because now is code red. Now we need to know what this language, we need to start thinking, like understanding the vocabulary, and as I'm learning more, it's like Sanskrit and Quechua are the two languages that are connected with the divine and give us meanings and structures to create neural pathways in our mind to understand reality as a divine gift and as a communion. To understand through these languages, we understand the vocabulary itself predisposes us to look at each other as divine beings with that respect, with that love. May you be white, black, yellow, red. May you be an animal, a bird, a tree. Because what we have here in our hands is the beauty of the divine. So I feel that the motive and how they've kept alive, and still they have been living up there till now, till 30, 40 years ago, the same way people have lived on the planet for a millennia. And even harder, because at 16 to 18,000 feet, the only thing that can survive, it can grow, is potatoes, a couple of root vegetables, and the llamas and the alpacas. Right? So they've lived and survived with nearly zero nourishment or other plants.
Well, that reminds me of the Koji people in Colombia that similarly lasted as they have intact because they just escaped and kept themselves for centuries in intentional isolation from the colonizers. So that's very interesting, Don Francisco, that your people and the Koji people employed the same strategy. And now, like the Koji people, you're coming down into the world because the colonizers have proceeded to destroy it. And we now have to be warned. And another question that I would have is, your being a shaman and an elder, was that something that you chose to do, or are you part of a lineage, an ancient lineage of sort of father to son over many generations of shamanic practice?
Maria, unmute your microphone, please. There you go.
Que hay aquí una que se llama Reverence,
Ask him where he learned.
Taitang manta, mama manta, hasta wawampak, nitumpak ki sabaruriaka, nipin sabaruria, hatum pakukayaka, jiaji sabaruria, mana nyukalas manta, just yawarni, hasta tatara ulos manta.
So Francisco say that the Andean towns, the Andean people, see themselves as an extension and a part of the mother nature, and has their children. They believe that she reach them, she see them, she assists them, while while they still keeping these traditions and customs, and also keeping, protecting and respecting the nature. So keeping the teachings of the fundamental service, like the service and conditional love and eternal wisdom. So probably part of their lives, they are considered like a part of the Mother Earth. They coming by this line of this great culture, by this great knowledge that they have. And also part of the knowledge that they have is coming by generation of fathers and children's and fathers. So that is a combination that how they learn and how they have this knowledge. They don't less this kind of the essential emotion of the Mother Earth.
Gotcha.
That's beautiful. So in essence, they are not they are the earth keepers, and also the lineage says, and it is from fathers to sons and mothers to daughters, and both. And I've met many shamans that have been trained by their mothers or uncles. But here we see is that there's an understanding that when you're born, you are given a gift and this huge responsibility. You're given the gift of all of life and the responsibility to sustain and regenerate, as someone dropped in the comments. They are on a mission. And this is one of the biggest differences, that every person in the Karo Nations villages, Karo Nations people, they're born with that reality that you have a mission to sustain the love for Mother Earth and to regenerate her and keep on teaching to the next generations this way of being. And that's living with a mission. And that is a huge difference of what we see in our world, where bigger companies and corporations have happened, and people work under them. So we've lost our individual sense of mission, each and every one of us. The way that the structure was created from Roman Empire and Christianity and then the Dark Ages is that there's bigger things and we're smaller and not powerful. We're disconnected from the feminine, disconnected from the animals, and we're disconnected from the divine. Where what we have here is the contrast of people that are made of clay, we're made of the same elements of earth, and we're infused with this wind, this air that is divine light. And there's such respect and beauty in that, where integrity shines, right? We're all sharing rather than each one of us can take. We're all always sharing. I hope
Don Juan, Don Francisco, do you have anything you want to add?
As bringing it home as a conclusion, Maria asks if Don Francisco, or if don't mean to be hasty, would we want to maybe receive a blessing?
Yeah, I was going to suggest that.
Yeah, we have a blessing.
So I didn't know whether he had any other comment that he wanted to make.
Una benedicción, por favor, por todos. Your
Marie,
microphone.
Unmute. Marie, unmute. Unmute, Marie.
There you go.
There we go.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Apo fangata apo salkantay. Invitai ta mama kile chaske kuna tuku ya cheni kita koi hatu ya cheni kita soma ya cheni kita. Apo aerorone fokone wa malepa ya cheni kita koi ko ki wa kuna pa na kuna pa. Konektai ki soma sa konektai ki ya cheta hatu ya cheta soma ya cheta. Nata kura ka kule ya chei. Alto misaf pa ya cheni, baba misaf pa ya cheni. Konektai ya cheta, konektai ki ya sumata. Nata apo Washington ya chei. Apo Chasta ya chei kona suma ya cheta koi hatu ya cheta suma ya cheta. Nata Mario Mantilla, Juan Mantilla, Tomás Mantilla. Mama Simona suma ya chei hatu ya chei 21. Hatu 21 suma hocha. Tuku ya chei nio, hatu ya chei nio. Hatu inkari, hatu kuliari tuku ya chei nio, hatu ya chei nio. Ya chei tuku hatu inkari. Konektai ki ya ki wa kituna panai kuna ino sumata. Ya chei nikita. Nata mama kocha ya chei nikita koi suma ya chei nikita. Animal kuna hatun sacha kuna ya cheni kita koi soma ya cheni kita hatun puma ya cheni kita koi soma ya cheta konekta ya cheni toku ya cheni hatun ya cheni toku ya cheni kita kuna soma mastari ke star suner suyo pengenata kuna ke Yipin kiti escampe, natakaman sumasa, yacheta koy hatong yacheta, imasum yacheta. Tokuy yachenio, tokuy saweria. Pachipote sumata yacheta koy hatong yacheta. Natak invitaita mama kil tashkona, natak papaya anak papaya sumata yacheta kita koy koy. Nipilay ko kumbati joy, nipilay ko kaktiway kumbati joy, hatong yacheta. Ahora con sumas tuku yachenia, hatong yachenia, sumata bendi kami ke potiki. Imasuma fornamba, imasuma lanchana kaya. Rey con hatong yachenia, penata con ati alonong kuna, sumata con hatong yache, sumas yache, hatong yacheta koy. Sabereta koy sumas sabereta, hampumoy. Hampumoy hatong inkari, hatong kolyari, tuku yachenia, hatong yachenia ko kun sumas kaya. Ani yana pa ikelbati hatong konto, hatong aputin. Suarkendi yachenia kita koy. Hatong yachenia kita, sumas yachenia kita, mama kucha, hampumoy hatong Pacha Mama. Yacheni kita koy sumas yacheni kita hatong yacheni hampumoy tuku yacheni yache tuku yache pamba msha yache alto msha yache toja koy yache bosu karpa yache ha yache dipenda yache ta koy sumas yache conecta tuku yacheni hatong yacheni hampuy tuku yacheni hatong yacheni sumas yacheni rey wa face kuna rey atong yache sumas yache Costa Rica de Astape. Ahoy!
Hoi, horpichai, Sunkoi, horpichai. Thank you.
Thank
you.
Don Francisco, Maria, and Ray. Thank you so much. And we will see you all tomorrow, same time, same station for day 2 of the Andean Shaman Summit. And the topic tomorrow will be on the art of thinking and the purpose
The art of
Tarot shamanic point of view.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Jim. It's been an honor. We're
Thank
looking
you,
forward.
everyone. We'll see you tomorrow.
Lots of love to you
Bye.
all. Gracias, Don Francisco. Gracias, Maria.
Muchas gracias.
Horpichai, Sunkoi. Munai. Hatun Munai.
Tomorrow moonlight, right?
¿Cuándo viajamos a Costa Rica?
Es en febrero. Hablar más. En febrero, sí. We're all going to have all the shamans here in February, so in Costa Rica at our place. So more about that in the next days to come. Gracias. Hasta mañana.
Bye bye, Ryan. I hope that you enjoyed.